Hey, boys and girls, back with another episode. Today we're going to be dividing, but with zeros. Either in what's called the dividend, which is kind of the number that ends up underneath when we divide. That will happen in that one. Or in the quotient. Again, in this one, when I set this one up, the quotient is the answer up that goes up top, how many groups we made. And then this one will kind of have both. So this one will just have a zero in the dividend that we'll just kind of bring down and use with something else. Okay, this one will end up with the zero up kind of top. I'll show you that. And then this one will be both. So I'll get started because again, we've been working a whole lot on the actual division part. I'll use a different color. I'll try purple for my DMSBR. All right, those are again our steps again. D is always kind of divide. How many groups can you make? M, multiply, how many have I already used? S, subtract, how many are left over? And then B for bring down. So I'll just go with one whole color. I'll go through this whole problem. So I can kind of go hopefully a little bit quicker today. All right? So again, our D is always, we try to see if 3 can fit into this first number. In this case, it can. 3 can fit into 7. Okay, so we can do that. We can put that answer right up here. Again, how many times, how many groups can we make? Again, you can use kind of your multiplication chart, or I can just make one quickly. 3, 6, 9. I'll add a couple more just in case I need them later. All right, what's the closest I can get to 7 without going over? Again, 6. 7 is a little bit too big. Or sorry, 9 is a little bit too big. I don't have 3 groups. So I just have the 1, 2 groups. Again, this is my two important pieces of information. 2 times 3 is 6. That's as close as I can get to 7. So the 2 goes up top, because again, that's my D, that's my groups that I made. M, the 6, goes underneath. That's kind of how many I already used. And you can then kind of see from there that there's going to be 1 left over. Right, that's 7 minus 6 equals 1. And that was just basically 7 divided by 3. If it was just 7 divided by 3, my answer would be 2 remainder of 1. And I'll switch colors when I get to that next section. Right, that's just 7 divided by 3. What if it was 70 divided by 3? Well, then we would just bring this 0 down. And we would repeat with 10. We would now try to say, well, how many times can 3 fit into 10? It's not 3 into 0, because remember that, and the color contrast kind of helps here, right? We have the 1 left over from the subtraction, and then the 0 that came down to make 10. And again, I use my chart again. 10 would be like right here. I don't quite have enough for a 4th whole group. So I'm using 3 groups and that one. Again, you can kind of see those 2 different numbers that I'm going to use there. Right? The 3 is going to go up top. Some of you are skipping that step, or some of you are putting the 3 down here, or some of you are putting the 9 up here. Okay? Groups goes on top. That's the D. Again, S was the 7 minus 6. I did that in red. So let me switch back to red real quick. Then I brought down with blue. Now I'm doing my repeat. Repeat is just really this arrow here. I kind of draw that little arrow. It helps me. Same thing with the bring down. It just helps me to organize kind of where I am or what I'm working on. Right? 3 went into 10 3 times. 3 groups. How much of the 10 did we already use? That's right here. That's 9. Okay, so again, that was D was the 3 up top. M was the 9 underneath. S, 10 minus 9 is 1. All right, and then I look next. Again, this is where the arrows help me. I say, oh, I already brought that 0 down. I haven't brought this one down yet. So I know for some of you it seems kind of silly. It seems to take a minute, but it actually helps you to set things up. Same thing with my blue arrow. Now my 3 is going to this one. Okay, so the arrows kind of help me to organize my problem. because that's now what I'm working with. That's my B. I brought down the red or the green 5. Now I'm going to repeat. Repeat really just means start over. Back up at D. How many times can 3 fit into 15? Or if there's 15 of something, how many groups of 3 can I make? Again, it's right on my chart. Perfect. And that's the number that's going to go under. Top was 1, 2, 3. This would have been 4, and then 5. It went exactly into it. And meaning 15 is a multiple of 3, or 3 is a factor of 15. So 5 went up top, 15 here. That means there's no remainder, 0 left over. Right? Now I'm going to move on to the next one. So I was going to try to go a little quicker today because Mrs. White had been making some awesome slides that showed you how to walk through these. And I made kind of that form yesterday that helped you kind of figure out what step would come next. Right? 4 into 8. And if there's 8 kids, can I make a group of 4? In fact, I can make 2 of them. Right? Again, if I'm thinking about my 4 chart. Okay. I can make 2 whole groups. I'll switch color. I can make 2 whole groups of 4, which is all 8 of them. So again, 8 is a multiple of 4, or 4 is a factor of 8. So the 2 goes up top. The 8 goes underneath. That's just these 2 numbers. And then there was 0 left. And then here's what's going to be different. I'll switch colors for this. So that was my D. D was 4, goes into 8. I can make 2 entire groups. 2 times 4, that's my M. It's really just always the top number times the side number, goes underneath. That was my 8. And then 8 minus 8 was 0. Here's how that I do it a little bit differently than Mrs. White had kind of set it up on the slide the other day. Next step is, again, I already used the 8. I bring down the 2. Now this is backwards. Don't get in the bad habit of saying 4 goes into 2 twice. It doesn't. That's the other way around. You can't just flip the numbers around. Where would 2 be on my 4 chart? It'd be like right here. I can't even make a single group. I don't even have 1. Okay, what I end up with is 0 groups. If there's 2 kids, I cannot make a team of 4. Right? I don't have 4. So what I do is kind of a shortcut. I put the 0 up top, and then I just bring the 7 down right away. Some teachers might show you to put a 0 underneath and do 2 minus 0 is 2, and then bring down the 7. To me, that's kind of inefficient or kind of a waste of quick time. That's why the arrows are helpful. I already brought down the 2. When I brought down the 2, I could not make any groups. It was 0 groups. That's why the 0 went up top. That's kind of how it works. Whatever number you bring down, like when the 0 came down here, we made 3 groups. When the 5 came down, we made 5 groups. Then I go 4 into the whole 27. Okay, so also don't get rid of the 2 there. Again, on my chart went all the way to 24. Next would have been 28. Again, a little bit too big. I don't have 28, only 27. So I don't have enough for that one, so I got to use this one. That's my number that's going to go under in a minute. How many groups is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups. Okay, 6 times 4 is 24. Again, so the 6, the groups goes up top. Underneath goes 24. And then I subtract, and there's 3 left over. I go to bring down. There's nothing left to bring down. Again, this is why my arrows are helpful. There's no more numbers to bring down. Then that becomes my remainder. Okay? You got to make sure you don't do like 26 as an answer. Or sometimes kids forget the 2 and they just go say 4 goes into 7 once with 3 left over. You need the 2 and the 7 together. And that's why I just draw the arrows down real quick like that. Okay? And again, I can check this one just to make sure, because if you do like 26 times 4, and you go to check it, if you forget the 0 in the middle, it's going to be a completely different answer. right? 4 times 6, 24. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. That's not my original number, because that's not what the answer is. The answer is 206. Let me switch colors just to distinguish it. Right, if I have 206 times 4, 6 times 4, 24. The 2 carries over. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. And then 4 times 2 is 8. I didn't quite get all the way back to 827. I got close because I need to still add the 3 back on. There's my 827. Okay, and then this one will have a combination of both. Right? This one had just a 0 that came down. This one had a 0 that went up top. This one will have a bit of both. So it's a little tricky. There are questions just like these on your thing. I just changed the numbers around a little bit. But there's one like this that has 2 zeros. It's going to be a similar process, but I think it's like 3 and 9 instead of 2 and 8. The same general idea. Right? How many times can 2 fit into 8? Again, if I'm counting by 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. 4 groups. Right? 4 times 2 is 8. That goes underneath. Then I subtract, and there's nothing left over. And here's what's going to be kind of different. I'm going to bring down my 0. How many times can 2 fit into 0? If there's nothing, how many groups of 2 can I make? 0. Okay? I then immediately bring down the other number, 0 again. Whenever I bring down a number, something has to go up top. Again, I still have nothing. How many times can 2 go into 0? Still 0. So this one is kind of harder. This is new. This one's going to be different. Okay? So afterwards, I'll kind of explain it again quickly once I'm done. And then I just bring this 5 right down again. Again, every time a number goes down, though, something has to go up top. Now that there's 5 kids, now how many groups of 2 can I make? 2, 4, I can make 2 groups. 2 times 2 is 4, and now there's 1 left over. Now there's nothing left to bring down, so that becomes my remainder. And for some reason, at least it happened the other day on assessments, whenever there was a remainder and a big number like that, they did not want the comma. Some of my students were doing the math out correctly, getting it wrong though, because for some reason, if you put the comma in the thousands, it didn't like it. Remember, you put the whole number quotient in, you have to leave a space, do a capital R, and then the remainder. The remainder can always go all the way up to what the number is like here. The divisor, the number we divided by was 4. So our remainder could either be 0, 1, 2, or 3. It can't be 4 or above. All right, so again, I'll explain this one again real quick. Because again, this is kind of the newer one or the harder version that we haven't really talked about yet. Again, I'll maybe even like change the number. Like even if this one was a 1, or it would have kind of been the same. 2 went into 8 4 whole times. 4 times 2 was 8 underneath. 8 minus 8 was 0. Okay, like even if this was 1, then we would end up with 10, right? It still would have been that first one, still would have been a 0, because 2 couldn't go into 1. Then it would have been 10. 2 goes into 10 5 times. But again, it just kept being zeros. Okay, 2 went into 0. When I brought down the 0, I couldn't make any groups. So the 0 went up top. Right? When the 0 came down, that was going to be blue. Yeah, it's going to be a little confusing at first. When the 0 came down, I couldn't make any groups. I brought the next number down, I still couldn't make any groups. So we have to put that up there. And then finally, at the end, when the 5 came down, we could make groups. If that was all zeros, the answer would have just been 4,000. If I was doing like 8,000 divided by 2, it would just be 4,000. Like it's okay if sometimes you can't make groups. Again, if you had done like 42 times 2, you'd only get to 84 when you're trying to check. Again, if you'd only remember to put one of those zeros in, it would be 804. Again, I didn't get back to where I started. So you can always kind of check that afterwards. That's why 4002 is the one that works for my quotient. Because there's my 4, there's 0, 0, and 8. And then I would add the 1 back on to get back where I started. Okay? So take your time on these, work through these. Again, if you need help, let one of us know.